Okay, welcome to another edition of the Nocturne Society. This is the April edition, late April edition.
Sorry, my
fault. And, I finally got Arnie in here, and we're going to do a little talking about guardian angels, maybe?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay, I haven't had many experiences with guardian angels. I've mostly just kind of played around with the whole animal spirit guide thing.
No kidding. Is that right? What's your animal spirit guide?
I have always felt, and I've actually had some very strange experiences with the owls.
Get the hell out of here.
Yep.
That's wisdom. I know you. That's got to be wrong. Really? Owls. That's awesome.
And then I followed this book that said how to find your spirit guide. And you do this little thing before you fall asleep at night, and you'll dream about the animal.
Ooh.
And I dreamt about a fox.
But that's not an owl.
I know. So I mentioned that to someone that was supposedly into that sort of thing, and she said that it's probably you can have more than one.
You know, I think that's a weird thing too. I think it's like whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. She said the weird thing was they were both nocturnal.
Okay, that's not weird. I know you. That's not weird at all.
Yep, that sounds right.
There's not a fit. There's no more a fitting term for you than nocturnal.
But I've never had what I consider a guardian angel. I don't think.
It's funny that you say. I would think that if I were to think that I have an animal spirit guide, I think my spirit guide / guardian angel, because I think they're the same the way people talk about them. I think it would appear to me like whatever it or I thought would be cool. So when you say your animal guide, I'll bet it is your guide, and it will be in any guise you want. I think when I eventually meet my guardian angel, be it through out-of-body experience or a guide, or be it when I die, it would be interesting. I just can't wait to meet that entity, person, whatever it is, because it has been pretty prevalent in my life, and the more and more I recognize it, the more and more it's there. And before I start off with some of the stuff that I've experienced, when you say your animal guide, have you ever had an overwhelming intuition to do something? Like, man, like for me, I've met people that scare the hell out of me for no reason, and I feel that's my spirit guide going, dude, back the hell off before you die. Or I think, like, I'll do something, especially when I get very tired, when I work a lot, and things will just work out so perfectly that, for instance, if one quick example. The first time I went to Gen Con, I was there as an artist, and it was just very nervous about doing it, and I didn't have the money to create boards to cut out for like little frames around all my art. And I had boards from when I was in grade school down in the basement, saved for, probably 20 years. And I thought, well, maybe I can try some of those boards, and I'll cut them to fit these 400 pieces of black and white art that I did, so they'll have like a little mat around them. I got those boards out, and I flattened them out with books because they were all moist and everything, and I dried them, and I had no money. And I cut those mats, every one of them, probably about over 400 mats, over about a 3-week period. And I had a huge pile of boards there that were just randomly thrown there. Some were different grays and blacks. I cut every one of those boards and wound up with a scrap pile about as big, about 1 foot by 1 foot, after 400 mats. It was so meant to be. I didn't think about that for 20 years. This thought pops in my head, hey, go do that. It'll be perfect. It was so perfect. It was like guided. So you've never had anything in your life where it was guided, where it was so purposefully like, man, did that work out?
I don't know if I'd say that, but I always feel like whenever something bad's happening, I always feel like it's going to work out. And and I guess that's just that things do work out in life eventually, but it's like I was, a few weeks ago, we had problems with our house mortgage, and I was like, wow, this is like losing your house type of problems, and I just felt in my head like this is all going to come together, and it did, and now we're actually better off than we were. So
now, see, that's kind of not like you to think, it'll all work out, is it? It's more like you think like all the angles, like it almost like it's like kind of to protect yourself, not to get too psychological. I think you think of like angles like, oh God, this could happen. I don't think I've ever known you to say, well, it'll all work out.
Yeah, I'm very defensive. I think a worst case scenario. So,
well, that's what I mean. I mean, maybe that was somebody just saying, just relax, everything's cool, chill, it will be all right, or maybe it was just you becoming more human. Okay, so
go ahead.
All right. First guardian angel experience. And this sort of ties into an out-of-body thing, but I was 2, just under 2, and I can remember that far back because of where we were staying in Michigan. And the only reason I know I was that young is because my parents tell me this is how old you were when you were there. And I was laying between my parents, and I woke up and rolled over and looked out the window. They slept against a window on the second floor. And I saw a visage of a man with, right outside the window, as if it was hanging onto the sill. I saw no arms or anything, just more like a head and a neck. And it was all black. And it had a very fleshy red and white mouth. I remember that. And it had black on black eyes, but they were very glossy. And I got...
That doesn't sound angelic, man.
Well, no, here's the thing. I felt totally at peace and at ease. I was between my parents. And people are going to say this is crazy to have a memory this detailed and to remember what was said to me, but I do. And I'm not afraid to admit it. So scoff if you like. I remember something was said as, this is bad, this is evil, what you're looking at, but it can't harm you. It can't hurt you unless you let it. And I remember that vividly.
Oh, so a voice in your head, sort of?
Uh-huh. And I was that young. This isn't something I dreamed later on. I always knew that, and it's one of the very few memories I've carried on. I have some others when I was that young. But that was the first time I heard that voice. And that voice, it's always been the same voice, by the way. The next time is when I was 5 at my Uncle Frank's farm, family reunion. And he had one of those red tractors, kind of the old-fashioned ones, with a big giant wheel in the back, and it looked like a big truck engine in front and the small wheels in the front. And my cousin Keith and my sister Andrea were on the tractor, and we were off to the side of the big party. Mostly everybody was in the garage and milling around it. And being 5, I was scared to death of spiders, and it was, as I remember, very rainy, which I was very lucky for later on. I'll tell you why. I think it was early spring, as I remember, because they had corn back there, but it was all gleaned, and it was all like after spring, and things were starting to get green again, but it was still kind of cold out a little bit. But it had rained, and the earth was all wet, and we were playing on the tractor. My cousin Keith was teaching my sister Andrea to drive, and I had a hold of her, and I was standing basically on this little piece of metal that's behind the seat, just enough to keep my feet there, and they were both sitting on the seat. And she kept shrugging me off because I was hanging on to her because I was so scared. And my cousin Keith, she said he's scared of spiders. My cousin Keith said, well, there's spiders all over the ground. If you drop here, they'll get you. So I'm freaking out at 5. I'm holding on to my sister, and then I grabbed her hair because I was really scared. And she shrugged me off, and I went flying off the tractor, and I landed in the mud. And I remember looking to the right and seeing the garage window that was in the back. It was kind of a country place. In the back, it had this sort of like big window that was kind of unnaturally sized, and I remember seeing a bunch of people milling back and forth, and I saw the picture. I saw within the window my father. He had a cup in his hand. He was really far away. I remember he had a red shirt on, and he was looking at me, and he cocked his head, and when I looked up, my sister and cousin totally panicked when I fell, and they put it into reverse, and they backed the tractor right towards me. Now, I remember looking at my dad and looking straight up, and that's when the voice came in my head and said, don't worry, you'll be fine, it's not even going to hurt. And as the tractor rolled over my chest, I was shoved into the dirt. I remember, because as soon as I heard that voice, this overwhelming calmness came over me, and it was almost like I wasn't taken out of my body, but mentally, I wasn't there. It was like, I was safe, I was fine. It was like I was all by myself in a room. I could see out, my eyes obviously. And I looked over at my dad as the tractor started to roll over my chest, and I saw him drop the drink. And he was a good 200 and some feet away, or maybe less. I was a kid, so distances could be screwed up here. And I saw him disappear from the window. And so I got pushed down in the dirt, because I remember looking at him, and my view was shoved into the dirt, and because then all I saw was pretty much dirt. And then the tractor went over me. And luckily, the front wheels didn't go over me, because that would have killed me. Because the front wheels hold the weight of the engine, is what I was told later. So I look up, and I see my cousin, and my sister just screams, "Oh no, we ran him over!" And they put it in forward and run me over a second time. No lie. I mean, this is not a lie.
He's still alive. Do it again.
I heard this voice say, "You're okay. and it rolled me over again. And this time I felt the thump of my father coming forward because he was just running like mad. And I pulled my head out of the dirt and I looked over and I saw him coming at me. When the tractor was going over me, there was a second there where I had no breath in my lungs. It just squished it all out. And I don't know if you ever had the wind knocked out of you.
Yeah.
Me too. And it's very hard to get that air back in. I was such in a calm state. It came right back in, no problem, both times. And that's another thing I always remember. My dad came over, snatched me up, ran me to the hospital, and I actually turned out okay. All I had was little kids are, tough, and luckily the ground was soft. But all I had were these very odd-looking striations of bruises from the tire treads that went over my chest. But that was the second time. You've never had anything like that? You never heard a voice in your head, anything like that?
Well, there is one theory that says that if you hear your name called from nowhere, it's your guardian angel. And I did have that happen to me one night. I was about 12, sitting in the dark. I've always been, like I said, nocturnal person. I don't sleep well at night. And I was sitting up, and I remember the whole house was asleep. And I was sitting up in my bed, and all of a sudden I heard this echoing of my name, just Chad, Chad, Chad,
Huh.
And it scared the crap out of me. And I was like looking around, and it was a woman's voice. I don't know.
I'll bet she's hot.
I don't know. It didn't mean anything to me at the time. It just scared me. So,
See, I don't know. I think it goes back to what we were saying before in our other conversation, where if you are not as distracted, for me anyway, and in those other times when you're just trying to find out who you are when you're a kid, I think you're really susceptible to that stuff. I think you start to hear it, and if you just start to listen more for it, you'll get more of it. I don't know.
Well, I had a very lucid dream once. The only thing that I've ever had that involved any kind of angelic anything was this very lucid dream I had, and it was during a rough time I was having, where I was questioning my, I'm not going to say I thought I was a bad person, basically.
Well, you kind of had like a vampire nightlife. So.
And in the dream, I was walking in the city, and it was like dawn, and walking with some people, and all of a sudden the sky kind of parted, and this light came down, this angel came down, flew down, and there was tons of people around, and so everyone crowded around it. And I remember the first thing that popped in my head when I saw it was like, oh crap, I've been wrong this whole time. So we all walked over, and we're standing there, and she's standing there, bathed in light and all the classic what you'd think an angel would be. And there's tons of people crowded around her, and she reaches out and grabs my hand.
And you felt pressure on your hand.
And she pulls me towards her and she said, you're not evil. And then she let go of me, and I just kind of flopped lifelessly to the ground.
That's awesome. See, that's what I'm talking about.
And then all the crowd, then she started lifting up, and all the crowd of people were touching me because I touched an angel. They were all like pawing all over me. And I woke up going, this is freaky. And my wife says, you're not going to become born again, are you? I said, no, I don't think that. I just...
That's it, man. I see, because it was kind of random, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I don't know.
Dude, I totally think that would be an encounter. Personally, I don't know. I don't know about you. I don't know if you think you were dreaming or lucid dreaming or whatever. I would think that's an encounter. I haven't met my guardian angel or spirit guide. I like to say guardian angel. I grew up Catholic. So, there's another time when I was in 4th grade. Mr. Nelson's class walking down the stairs in Dunn School, and they had cement and tile stairs. And from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor. In 4th grade, I started to trip, and it really became like a slow motion thing. I heard the kids were walking in front of me. And when I tripped, the kids in front of me were like far enough away from me, so when I fell, I didn't hit them. I went face first, and it was almost like I went into a form of paralysis. Everything went a little fuzzy, and I heard the voice again saying, "Don't worry, you'll be just fine." And I hit face first on these cement stairs, and then and then went legs over, my shoulders, Jeez. And then shoulders over my legs. The kids get out of the way, and I fall right at Mr. Nelson's feet, and I was absolutely unharmed. and I mean face first, right into the concrete stairs. It's the kind of thing that would knock all the teeth out of somebody. And I went head over heels, feet. I went face down, feet, face, and that's when I landed at his feet. And he said he got my name wrong. He used to call me Arno, or Andre sometimes. Arno, get up, and quit acting so silly. And I was just fine. And that was the third time I heard it. Huh. And there's been some other things since then. The choice to come out here, I've been basing it on major intuition. But the thing is, if I relax, I think I can hear pushes and nudges from this being, from my guardian angel. And I don't know about you, but I'll ask questions of God. And like, what should I do here? I'm a little confused. Help me out. And I'll usually get feelings one way or the other, which way to go immediately when I ask. I attribute that to this being or person. I had a very strange. I listen to Coast, absolutely love it. I don't believe in everything like they do. I think Coast to Coast AM is so wonderful because 50% of it, I would say 60% of it, I just love when the scientists are on there. And the other 40%, when you hear about guys making their own time machine in the backyard for $50, those I just laugh. I just have the best time with it. But there was a guy on there who wrote a book called Soul Traveler, who talked about spirit guides, guardian angels, and especially out-of-body experiences, which I believe that's what I've been experiencing my whole life, and that would explain so much as far as the dreaming and the weird precognition stuff I've had and the things I've seen. But to that end, that guy just sort of like opened my eyes to all this stuff, and I realized what this is either some type of guardian angel or spirit guide. I haven't read the book Soul Traveler, but just listening to him talk on Coast to Coast, and I'm afraid I don't know his name. I forget it at this point anyway. He was, it just opened my eyes. Everything made sense. Why I even draw monsters to this day for a living. As a kid, I saw so many monsters in my dreams that gave me this stuff so I wouldn't dream, which was terrible. And I would always dream of my family dying and stuff, and I always felt like those dreams were given to me for a reason. Something was making me have those dreams. And after what he said, that's totally true. That's what was going on all that time, and he just opened up so much for me. So one day when I'm driving home, I'm thinking about what he said, and I'm thinking about the out-of-body experiences, and I'm thinking about guardian angels and stuff. And for the last 5 years, I've just been listening to that inner voice a lot and thinking that it's more helpful. And I think it's more than just me being analytical and looking at my life from the outside in. I think it's actually something helping. So I had an epiphany, actually. I was driving home, and I said out loud, I believe in you. I know you're there. Thank you for helping me. And I said a few other things that I'm not going to say. And I got this overwhelming feeling of complete love. It was something that, it was such a euphoric state that I almost couldn't see straight. This went on for about 15 seconds.
And you crashed your car and died.
No, I didn't crash my car. But it is equal to when I saw my kids come into the world. It was so 100% pure, so clear, that whatever was there was giving me a big hug, or a psychic hug, of some type. And since that day, I have been the happiest guy in the world, and knowing that I've always had this confirmation that there's so much more out there, and not to worry about fear, not to worry about pain, not to worry about death. Things fall where they may. Horrible things happen to all of us. They've happened to me and my family too, but that's all part of life. And when you realize there's more out there, life becomes more tasty. It has more spice to it. I've always been sort of like live for the moment, and even in the bad things happen, I was like, well, embrace those as much as you would a good time because it's life. But now it's better than ever. And the capper to all this, and there were more angelic things in there too, but the capper to all this is, according to this guy who wrote Soul Traveler, he's talking about different techniques to do an out-of-body experience to meet your spirit guide. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I can meet my guardian angel. And this was 3 weeks ago. working here very late. And his advice is to go to sleep, make sure you don't have any caffeine or food before you go to sleep. And I hope I get this right if he ever hears this. His advice is to sleep and then get up about 2 o'clock so your body's done processing any food. Lay on your back, close your eyes, get yourself into a very, very calm state, and think happy thoughts to get your vibration higher, to go to a higher level of an altered state so you can meet this person. And so I've been very afraid to do that, because the things I saw when I was a kid, he explains as the lower level being, say, on a lower spiritual level. And believe me, those are some horrific stories. But I'm thinking I'm a grown-up now and fear no evil, literally. So I have been wanting to do this. Well, 3 weeks ago, I'm laying there. My wife was downstairs with the baby, so I was alone in our bed. I laid on my back. I got very comfortable. It was about 4:30 in the morning. And I started to jump in my dream. I can lucid dream, and I rarely fly anymore. But I started to jump, and the jumps got higher and higher and higher off a virtual world in my mind. And I kept jumping higher and higher, and I got to the clouds. I got to where it was just getting pure white. When I'd come up and I'd come down and I'd jump again, and I heard this voice say, "Just a little farther, you're about to meet me." And I fell asleep. It was terrible. I woke up in the morning, or something happened. I have no record of it. I'll just say that. I woke up in the morning at like that instant. I'm like, I was so excited. I started to feel the charge, the love. I'm like, oh yeah, oh man, I'm going to do this. This is going to work. And I'm not feeling negative in any way. So according to this guy, I'm already going to vibrate at a higher level. I'm going to make it. I'm going to meet this person, this entity. And I was just like so excited. And the voice was excited. It's just a little bit higher. You're going to meet me. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. And it was like that stopped. And I woke up in the morning. And I went, oh, what happened? Oh, it's like, it's like you walk into the movie theater, close your eyes, and you wake up at the credits. I was like, no. So I really
wasn't saying, get out of my yard.
Yeah. I was, and I'm very anxious to meet this person, at least only because I'm a visual person. I think it really doesn't matter if I meet. I know it's there. I know he or she. And to tell you the truth, I couldn't duplicate the voice. I think it might be male, but I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a male or female, to tell you the truth. No, I have no idea. I can hear the voice in my head now, and I wouldn't be able to tell you if it's male or female. Very strange. But I'm looking forward to the day to meet that person. Hopefully it won't be the last day I'm here. Sure would be cool to, set up shop before I go.
There's a guy I worked with in California that says claims he met an angel on the street. And
I got stories like that too. Good, go ahead.
Well, he said that he was sitting at, I don't know, in LA you sit forever just to wait to get on the stinking freeway. So he was sitting there, and a lot of times we'll have homeless people that would walk around trying to get money while you were sitting there, stopped at the light. And he was having a really bad day, and he said he was sitting there and he just looked about as down as you could be. He said the guy came over to his window and said, "Hey man, can I," he was going to say, "Can I have some money or something?" And he stopped and he said, "Wow, you look terrible." He's like, "Oh yeah, well, I had a bad day, And he said, you look worse than me." And he's like, "Well, yeah, I'm dealing with some bad stuff right now." And he said, "Well, just think about this. You could be where I am." And he said, then he walked on past the car and he sat there and thought about it. And he's like, he's right. I could be in a much worse situation. He said he turned around to tell him thanks and he was gone.
I love it.
There was nobody there.
I got one for you too, similar to that, and that didn't happen to me. I had a friend named John who was a Bible study teacher, and he said he had this crappy van. He laid tile, and a nice enough guy. And he said, and I believe him because he wasn't a fanciful guy. Actually, he's very analytical. So, and he kind of, barely got the story out of him. It's like he didn't want to tell me, which gave it validity, if you ask me. He said that he had a flat tire, and he always had problems with that van. He never had much money, kind of living a pious life. And the van conked out on him again. He was pushing it uphill to get it to the gas station just so he could call a tow truck. And he's pushing it. And it got to the point where he was certain he would have to hop in and put the brake on and leave it right in the middle of the street because it wouldn't go up the hill anymore. When suddenly there was a tap on the back of the van, pop, pop, pop. I got it. He heard it, and the van started to push forward, and all he pretty much had to do was just take the wheel and turn it. And so he's walking next to the car, pushing as best he could. He went up half a block, got into the gas station. It was late at night, 3 a.m. Nobody's around. So the van, it goes right up the thing. He didn't even get into the van. The van just pulls up into the thing, and he's holding it, and he yells back to the back of the van, "Oh, thank you so much." And there was no answer. So he shuts the door. The van's not moving. He walks around to the back of the van. There's nobody there. It was in the middle of a gas station. There was nowhere anybody could go. And I believe that story too. I think that's a great story. Maybe.
Wow.
This is a weird thing, and this might take away from the mystery of angels. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and I see this young lady in Detroit where I lived, in a car pulled over on the side of the road, and it was Roseville at the time, pardon me, which is right near Detroit. It's a black girl in a real clunker, an old Granada or something, and I pulled over, and I had our blue van, our trans van, and I go, "Are you okay?" And right away she looked at me with, it was that night, right away she looked at me with these distressful eyes. And I go, okay, I just want to see if you're okay. And then she looked at me again, and I smiled, and she goes, "Well, I'm in trouble." I go, "What's going on?" And she gets in the car, and she goes, "I'm out of gas, and I don't have a phone, and I'm far away from where I got to go." And I go, "No problem. Come on." And so within about 20 minutes.
That's a scary situation for a woman.
Yeah, but
to get in a car with someone,
I got to tell you,
especially you.
Well, yeah, I know I'm kind of scary looking, aren't I? But the thing is, I don't know what it is. Maybe I have a trustful face. I've had people hand me their babies. And, I'm totally serious. You can ask Glenn and a bunch of those other guys. They've been around me when people go, "Can you hold my baby? I'll be right back." I don't know what that is.
Holy crap.
I know, man. I could make a mint. Sorry. Just kidding. Anyway, you know me. I can talk to anybody. And so we drove for about 15 minutes, went and got her some gas. She had no money. I got her the gas, got her in the car. Meanwhile, she's telling me about her whole life. We get in this wonderful conversation, super deep. And she gets back to her car, and I put the gas in her car. It starts right up. And she says there's all kinds of problems with it all the time. Started right up, worked perfectly. And she asked me if I was an angel. She goes, "Are you an angel?" And I go, "Nah, I wish." And she gave me a kiss on the cheek, and I thought that was so wonderful. She was she was so young. She was like 16 maybe. And, God, she was such in a precarious position.
Yeah.
And I was so happy that I could help. And I don't know. And there's been a few more things like that. But that was like the best one where it just felt like you knew each other. And this is the first time you're seeing each other in a long time. And we had the greatest conversation. She seemed like the nicest person. But yeah, she asked me if I was an angel. I think she was convinced I was, no matter what I told her. So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's against an argument for there are none.
What's is she on the missing persons list?
Oh. Yeah, the other day I saw her in a milk carton. That's very good, Chad. Yeah, this is the Chad we all know and love, ladies and gentlemen. This is the true Chad Bardwell. But some of those other things, like those, when I talked about seeing those wonderful things and having those wonderful experiences, I've had just as many really, really, really horrific ones that are terrible to talk about. But they're when the author of Soul Travelers said at the lower levels of the spirituality, if there's 7 levels or whatever he said, I don't remember, how the dregs hang out around level 1 and are just there to feed off your fear. Mm-hmm. Holy crap! I must have been walking around with them since I was 2, because there's just terrible stuff. And one of the real bad ones was when I was 4. And I went to sleep in my mom and dad's room again because the house was really frightening, and it just always scared the shit out of me. I always felt like there was people in the hallways, always. Like I'd look down an open hallway, especially at night. Even in the daytime, that house was eerie. I hated it, so I'd sleep with them a lot. And I got out of the bed one night, and looked around and went in there with them and laid with them, and their room scared the shit out of me. It was the worst one in the house. But I was safe because I was asleep between them. And I woke up one morning and they weren't in the bed. And I was scared because I know their door sticks, and sometimes I couldn't get it open. Never from the inside, though. So I woke up in a very scared state, what I thought was a scared state, and I heard something move across the room. The way it was, the room itself was, if the bed was against the windows, and just to the left, about 6 feet away about 8 feet away, was the wall with a door to go out. If you follow that wall down to the other side of the room away from the bed, there was a closet door and a very big giant dresser, a huge oak dresser. And then to the right, it was just a plain wall that came back to where the bed was. And I heard it again, like a piece of furniture moving. And I looked over at the dresser, and the dresser pulled away from the wall by about 3 inches from the right side. Left side staying against the wall, the right side went and moved out about 3 inches. And I knew something was behind that dresser, which didn't make any sense because it was flush against the wall. So scared, I thought I would be brave. I threw my legs over the bed, and I waited to see if it moved again, and it did. This time about a foot away from the wall, and a very pale hand came from around the dresser. And they got to realize there was barely enough room for that hand behind the dresser. The hand came around. And so I hit the floor, and I started running for the door. The dresser moved about 3 feet away from the wall, and stepping away out of the crack in between the dresser and the wall was something that looked like a jester. In reds, whites, violets, and yellow trim. I remember it vividly. And a very, very, very pale complected. And now that I think back, though vague as it was, but I've remembered it since I was 4. So that's 38 years. I can think back at all these details, but when I look at his face, he doesn't have any eyes. I think it's just skin there. Now that I look back at it. Anyway, he came at me. Now, I grabbed the door handle, and the way he ran at me was so otherworldly. It was like his legs weren't supposed to work that way. It was like they were like normal legs, but it's like his center of gravity, his hips were lower, almost even with his knees. So if you can picture somebody sitting in a chair walking towards you without the chair, it was very gangly, very odd. And even I got chill bumps even now. Getting kind of scared myself from reliving it. I don't tell the story often. I yanked on the door, screaming, "Mom, Dad, Mom, Dad, Mom, Dad." It wouldn't open. And granted, that door would stick. And it grabbed me, and it started tickling me. And tickled me, and I screamed and screamed and screamed. Felt like maybe 10 minutes. And wouldn't let me up. And I screamed and screamed and screamed, and then I passed out. And it was terrible. I just closed my eyes. Oh, this is a tame one.
You should draw a picture of it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I wanted to contact that author and draw all the things that I've seen. But anyway, I passed out, and when I woke up, I didn't feel scared anymore. But it was quite some time afterward, and I got up, looked at the dresser. The dresser was back against the wall, and I opened the door. The door opened on the first try, and I walked out. And it took me a lot of years to tell my mom and dad that story. And they said, "Oh, you just had a dream, and you woke up on the floor." No, this was too physical. I remember the smell of the wood floor. I remember the sweat on my arms and face as I was being tickled, sticking to the floor, making the floor wet. I remember a lot of that stuff. So I think it was one of those things that this author talked about, one of these lower creatures that feed off you. And I've had several things on there. It's like they're showing you what's going to scare you, just to feed off you. I have a feeling that I've dealt with another one of these things only one other time, one of these specific things where it's very visual, and they're really trying to get a charge out of you to scare you. And that was when after my dad died, I had a really bad one where it was about 4 months after my dad died, and I pictured my mom's house in my mind. I wasn't staying there at the time anymore. And there he was on the front porch, and I said, oh, first of all, let me preface this by saying I was having another dream. And this is where I think the astral travel, out-of-body stuff happens, or whatever it is, because I was having another dream. And I was yanked out of that dream, and I mean yanked out of it, and put on the front porch of my mother's house at night. And I'm looking around going, how the hell did I get here? I was just over here. I was just in this other dream. And I look over, and there's my dad looking at me in his white button-up shirt with the short sleeves, and he wasn't wearing his cap. That I thought was very odd right away, because he always wore this hat. And I go, Dad, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And he just blew me off right away. And I thought that was odd. And he said, listen, I got to talk to you about this house. You really got to take care of your mother now that I'm gone. Really guilting me out. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's wrong? And he goes, the trim around this window is screwed up, it's leaking, this porch needs to be painted. And he walks around the side of the house, and I'm walking with him going, man, I really need to get a hug from my dad. He's gone now. And he's pointing up at the chimney going, yeah, look at those bricks. Those are about to fall. You've been on that roof before. Climb up there, remortar those bricks. And he's walking around to the backyard. And I'm finding it odd because he's not looking at me at all. But he's really trying to guilt me out. But I really want to hug him so much, he's not getting the reaction he wants. And that was the weird thing, because he kept reacting to how I was feeling. I wanted to hug him, and that repelled him. And so he goes in the backyard, and I'm walking with him, and we walk around the house. We go in the backyard. It was a fenced situation, and with like wooden fence around it, but there was also a fence on the inside of it, so the wooden fence is attached to the chain link. And in the very back of it, it's all just chain link. So anyway, this thing is walking around and starts telling all this stuff, and I realize this is not my dad. This thing's looking for a reaction from me. Lucid dreaming helps a lot, by the way, because I had no control over this thing, and that's what was odd about it. It was in my head, in my dream, and I had no control over it whatsoever. Over it, whatever it was. And I stopped and I turned to it, and I got this overwhelming fear. But I also got this supercharge of, you're in the right, don't worry, you're going to be fine. And then again, maybe that's a sign from my guardian angel. And I turned to it, I go, you're not my dad. And then I got this thing in my head, and I said, don't look away. No matter what you do, no matter what it changes into, don't look away from it. And it turned at me, and it looked really fast, and it had black eyes, and it was fucking angry. And it wasn't my dad. Its face started to change. I looked away from it. It was trying to scare me. It was trying to find an image that was going to scare the shit out of me so it could feed. I know it. I walked to the back gate really slowly. It was right to my right, and then it was behind me. And I knew it was behind me, but I had total faith that it couldn't hurt me. I pulled the latch off the gate, pulled the gate open, and I said, get out, without looking at it. Just get out. Because I did look away when I started to walk away. It walked by me. And as I shut the gate, I saw his legs, his pants, his torso. I wouldn't look up. And then I said to myself, just do it. It can't hurt you anymore anyway. It's on the other side of the gate. I slammed the gate down. I looked up at it, and it turned into this absolute horrid... The only way I can describe it is it looked like a tumor. It was really, really disgusting. It looked like... not to give too much away, but I've had these fatty tumors removed from me. They sort of grow, they got to cut them out. It looked like that. It looked like a huge hunk of hard chicken turkey fat. And it was shiny, and it was disgusting, and it had two tiny little beady eyes right in the middle of this quivering mass that was its head on my dad's body.
Damn.
And it had, as I remember, I don't remember any tufts of hair or anything, but it had ears, I know that. And it wailed. It screamed in so much fucking anger, that it just wailed. And I went and I looked up at it and said, "You can't hurt me at all." And it just bellowed. The body disappeared. It became a blob like that, and it had a mouth, and it yelled and disappeared. And I felt like I totally won a battle.
I had a dream one night that I was wrestling, I guess what I described would say as a demon or something. And it was a physical fight. And the whole night long, it just seemed like I was wrestling with this thing, and I woke up exhausted, like I hadn't slept at all. And I got up, and I went into the bathroom, and I was like, God, that was bizarre. And I got out a brush to comb my hair, and I lifted my arm up to brush my hair, and there was fingerprint bruises on the back of my arm.
There you go.
And I called my wife and I said, "Look at this." And she said, "How did you do that?" Because it wasn't I wasn't be physically able to grab my arm the way the bruises were.
Huh.
And I said, I don't know. I just woke up with this. And she said,
she was just trying to smother you. The whole
yeah,
night.
that's probably it.
It's like
she actually wasn't sleeping with me. She was sleeping with the girls that night. So
wow.
I was alone.
I had a dream. I ate the largest marshmallow known to man. I woke up and my pillow was gone. Sorry. That joke would work nowhere else. Anyway.
Right.
My wife would laugh at that, which is why I married her, by the way. But there are many things like that. I could go on and on. I think we're running out of time, though. But a lot of the scary things like that, I could just keep going with the scary ones, buddy. I had the worst dreams ever when I was a kid, and I never got much sleep. And maybe that's why I work so much now, so I don't have to sleep anymore.
I don't sleep because of.
Well, I got to tell you,
I
don't know. I love to dream, especially when I can control it. But every once in a while, my mind, and I know this is a dream, my mind will screw with me, especially if I do a lot of lucid dreaming and cheating. There's a whole city that I go to in my head. That's my city. It's very controlled. I know all the streets. I know where all the houses are. I could paint it for you. The bad areas of town, the not so bad areas, where they do medical experiments in part of the town, the whole shot. It's very, very disgusting. But there's parts of it that are so beautiful. And I think it represents my mind. And I know when I'm not in that city. And I know that's when I'm not in control anymore. And that's my last little bastion of keeping control. Like, all right, I'm not in my city. Just keep control. Everything's fine. But then, occasionally, I'll screw with myself and really feel that a dream is real. And they come about 3 times a year. When my mind goes, screw you. Dreams are for a reason. I'm trying to work some stuff out with you. You're not control of this anymore. And then I wake up screaming, yelling, and jumping out of bed. Unfortunately, my son, Max, is having a lot of bad dreams now, and I see a lot of correlations with him. He's 5, and he dreams a lot of the monsters, he tells me. And so I gave him a clue that I learned when I was in my 20s, and that is, no matter what's coming at you, no matter what can hurt you, you can make armor appear around yourself. And he says, gold and silver? I said, yeah. I should have done this when I was a kid. It would have helped me. I said, whenever, and I hope it'll help him lucid dream, whenever you get scared, you can imagine this armor on yourself, and it will appear if you believe in it. And once the armor is on you, it covers every part of your body. Nothing can hurt you no matter what touches you. It'll appear on you. You'll see it. It'll be shiny, and all the monsters will be afraid of it because it's shiny. And no matter how they hit you or try to grab you, they won't even touch you. And he loved it. And I said, later on, when you get that down, you can make a sword appear that will destroy all of them as soon as it touches them. And he liked that a lot. And he said, well, I'll try to make it appear, Daddy, so we'll see if it's going to work. I hope so. There was a time when I needed that armor, and in my 20s, and I made it appear. And I haven't done it in years, but no matter what I was dreaming, it would all just stop, and they wouldn't be able to touch me. So,
my dreams are always in a moonlit forest.
You're serious?
Mm-hmm.
They're always in a moonlit forest?
Always begins from there. That's like where I...
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dude, that's odd.
I think it's because that was always my safe house when I was a kid. I had terrible, terrible childhood. Yeah. Well, I'm not saying it was terrible, really awful, but it wasn't fun. Yeah. And the best place for me to go was to get away from them. We lived next to a river, and I'd camp out in the river, or I'd go for a walk at night. And I was always so, I don't know, I felt like I knew what was out there, and I wasn't really scared, so I would be walking along the river at night. I mean, in the dark. And it was always like my, sweet mother darkness enveloping.
You know what, though? I can identify with that in this way. Whenever I'm in the woods, be it at night or whatever, I always feel much safer in the woods than I do in the city.
Yeah, exactly.
And
people scare me. It's not the things out there.
Well, maybe it's the things out there, not the people, because there'd be more things out there around the people in the city than there would be in the country. I'm always more
afraid of people than anything else.
Unless, of course, you're the Blair Witch, in which case you'll be forced to stand in a corner until it's your turn.
Yeah. But I think that's where the whole owl thing came in, because, it was when you hear an owl. When I hear an owl, it like stirs my soul. I can feel
that's
it.
Cool.
And my wife witnessed it one night. I was out there, and these owls we lived in the mountains in this national park, and these owls were like going crazy. I'm like, wow. And I told her about, that before, and she said, and I'd go out and you could hear them. They'd be next to our house, and then they'd start moving up the mountainside, and then they come back and then start moving up the mountainside. And I was like, Donna, check this out. And she listened to it, and she's like, well, you better go. And so I did.
So you tore all your clothes off and ran into the woods.
So I went out and I followed him up to the, and nothing came of it, though. So it was just to get me out again. I don't know if they, get me back out in the... Because you detach yourself from things like that when you grow up,
I was electrocuted once, and I kept screaming like an owl. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, it's true. It is.
That's great.
That's not to get off on the subject of electricity today, but no, that's awesome. See, I love all that stuff. I'm willing to buy anything now after all the things that I've talked about, and a lot of things I haven't. Man, there's something out there. It's so.
See, I'm ever since my death and everything, I tend to be more of a skeptic. I don't know why.
Because you saw nothing.
I think it's because I saw nothing.
No,
it didn't feel like there was nothing there, but I didn't see anybody or any lights or any. I was still there.
Well, they figure your way in the dark. You'll be able to.
Yeah.
Chad will make it. You might be in that moonlit forest you're talking about. You're just face down.
Well, that could be cool. Before I had my heart attack, I've told the listeners and stuff that I had this person telling me there was dark spirits trying to contact me. Mm-hmm. And during that time, before I even talked to this woman, they were in the forest in my dreams trying to capture me, trying to trap me. And I remember the dreams. And like one time I walked into the shed because I walked around this. There was a meadow and there's this old shack there. And I'm like, this isn't normally here. So I walked into it. And it was just an empty shed. And I'm like, why is this here? And then it dawned on me, they're trying to trap me in this thing. So I started towards the door and they were trying to shut it just as I grabbed it and I got out. And it's like, wow.
See, that's the kind of dream my mind would give me to screw with me.
Yeah.
Like something random like that. And it does. I don't know what happens, and I don't think it's an entity feeding off because those other occasions felt totally different. It's like I'll wake up going, "Damn it! I just scared the crap out of myself." Yeah, it's a different thing. Whatever this guardian angel or spirit guide is, it's really welcome, and it's got a direct line to me, and I listen to it. And I can't wait to meet it, him, her, or if it is a him or her.
Well, if it starts telling you to kill, though, you have to.
No, I think you're the one with dark forces around you, buddy. I don't know. Chad. They're all making fun of you, Chad.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what it is, but I know it's there. And I don't care who believes me or doesn't. I even tell my kids I have a guardian angel. And so do they. And when... at 3:30 in the morning when you've had no sleep, you just lay down and your infant child starts screaming. And you say to yourself, my God, I've only slept 4 hours in the last 3 days. I can't handle this. I got to change and feed this kid. This calmness and voice basically hits me. You know what to do. You know what's right. Just go do what you got to do. You love your child. And there's situations like that where it's a calming thing, like just relax. Just go do what you got to do. It'll get you through this. Whenever I travel around the world, and I have everywhere from Asia to Europe and back here, and I seem to jump out of myself. And I think I lose connections with whatever it is because I'm too far from my family. I think it has to do with all of that. Though I get intuition and things in those, but I always pull myself out of my body. And after the second day there, I don't feel like it's me anymore. I'm just hurrying up, waiting to get home. And that's I've had weird feelings then, but that's the only time it's ever been very strange. It hasn't felt like normal. And one of these days I will be brave enough to lay down when there's nobody else in the room and no distractions, and attempt to contact via the Soul Traveler author's suggestions, attempt to contact whatever this is and just say thanks.
I tried to do that out of body thing once, and I felt myself lifting up, and it scared the shit out of me, and I fell back into bed again.
Really?
So it was so brief.
I've never felt the lifting, but I have had some experiences that the way he describes them has to be that. Some of the positive ones are when my grandma died. I was laying on the couch, and we pretty much all just slept on the floor in the living room, and we had one less pillow than we had people. So if whoever got the couch didn't get a pillow, I got the couch that night. And everybody was sleeping on the floor, and I had a vision of my grandmother. I was sleeping, and I was on the couch, and I had a vision of my grandmother floating across the family, stopping and looking at each one of them, not at me, and floating out of the room. And she had one of those old moo dresses she would always wear. And as soon as she left the room, I woke up, shot my head up, and everything was exactly as it was that I had just seen. Everybody was in the same position. And they weren't that way in the beginning of the night. Everybody was in the same position. The pillows were in the same spot. Everybody was wearing what they had. Everybody had the same blankets on. So I have many, many of those. But I get less and less of them the more I have to worry about. I think once you get yourself to a steady stream of consciousness and you're calm, and I think that's why I can see why meditating will get you there, because the more I dwell on other stuff, it gets away from that purity. It gets away from the way it's supposed to be. That harmony. Yeah.
I've been thinking about that, meditation and yoga, like maybe giving that a shot or something. Because I saw this video, and it's on the website, that this guy is able to electrocute people just by touching them. Because he's so in tune with his chi or whatever.
Yeah.
And he says it's been years and years of, he says, meditation that allows him to do that. And this woman brought up a really good analogy. She was talking about psychic ability, being able to see spirits, and all the whole realm of what all these otherworldly powers supposedly are. And she said she was saying she could teach things, and the guy interviewing her was saying, you can teach this to other people, and she said it's no different than playing an instrument. Everyone has the ability to do it.
Sure.
Some have natural talent. She said it's just the difference between, some people make music, some people make noise, but everyone can do it.
Yeah, that seems to make sense.
That seems to make
I'm a firm believer of whatever we can imagine is true somewhere. As odd, strange, or awesome as it is, if we can imagine it, it can be so. If it's the most evil, vile realm in the universe, it's somewhere out there. In another dimension, another place. If it's the coolest place in the world, it's somewhere out there, and even better than we can imagine.
Well, the string theory says there's so many different dimensions, it's almost uncountable.
Well, next time we talk, I can share those scary ones with you, but I'd rather not now. I said enough good, positive things. I'd rather keep those negative things away, because all they really do is scare people anyway. And I think keeping them on the positive end is the way to go.
Well, that was the big thing. I think the author of that book, well, we can't remember his damn name. We should have looked it up.
Alan, somebody?
But he kept saying, bad is there if you think it is, and, basically. So,
sorry, my phone's going off. Yeah, I think that's just it, and that almost sounds like a dream state. It sounds like a cop-out. Like, well, if you imagine the bad things are going to be there, they're going to be there, and if you imagine the good things are going to be there, the good things are going to be there. I don't know. They've been randomly thrown at me, to tell you the truth, but I know that those dark things have been feeding on me since I was a little kid, and bastards. I'm at a point now, and this is in no way a challenge to anything dark out there, that I'm not afraid, and so I haven't seen them. And I won't be afraid. No meals here, thank you very much. And I keep thinking positively before I go to sleep, and I hope one day I'll get to meet my guardian angel. I really do.
Well, I'm sure you will one day.
Yeah, I hope so. I believe in heaven or the moving on and all that other stuff. I don't know what's out there, but
yeah, Arnie, hi, I'm sending you down.
Yeah, I tried to tell you. I kept giving you the hints. You kept going the wrong way. Now look at you. See you in the next millennia.
Well, I'm going to do this. If you got to go.
No, go ahead. I'll if the phone rings, I'll get up and go. But I'd like to hear your take on this book, on this really cool book named Ghost Hunter.
Well, it's How to Be a Ghost Hunter by Richard Southall, and my plan was to get this book and read it and do a little review of it, and I just can't get through even the first chapter of this book.
You don't give it a chance?
Because it's just awful.
Oh.
And they use it as a guide at the Flamel College, as a guide to how to be a ghost hunter. They use this book as their text.
Really?
And
they're that sure that what he says is Bible?
Well, he certainly is sure of it. I've highlighted a few things here, and this is what drives me nuts: is there's no facts. There's absolutely zero facts in the paranormal universe. We have no facts of anything. Yet here, his types of spirits. There are 4 main types of spirits that reason. Oh, here it is. 4 main reasons a person's spirit stays behind after death. So he's going to give us the 4 facts, the factual reasons why a person's spirit stays behind. 1, his spirit does not realize his own death. God, how many times have you heard that crap? Who says this? Who makes this up? I have no idea. Nobody says anything about there's this rule that if you got hit so hard you don't realize you're dead. Uh-huh. I don't know. When I died, it happened very suddenly. I was in the middle of a sentence, and I never felt that I was going to.
Actually, Chad, you've never come back. This is just your.
This is the movie.
Your holding pattern.
Sixth Sense.
Much,
huh? Yeah.
I can just see you.
Another thing he says here is, as far as viewing spirits, is just as many apparitions appear fuzzy or out of focus to us, we tend to have the same appearance to a spirit. So he's looked through the eyes of a spirit.
He's got his ghost goggles on. Yeah, you're blurry, Chad. I can't see a thing.
And he can see.
That sounds pretty far-fetched. That's out there.
And the way he says everything, and the whole book is this way, is he says it as a fact. It's just the way it is. Accept it. I'm teaching you.
So it is like a textbook.
I guess so. He says a perfect example of a spirit finally acknowledging its own death is the role of Bruce Willis's character in The Sixth Sense. So he must have really liked that movie to the point where he adapted it.
Yeah, how is he going to know that? Apparently, he's in contact with spirits.
Yeah.
I hope he can talk to them after they're gone, because then that statement doesn't make sense.
The second reason the spirit may stick around is it has unfinished business on this material world.
That makes sense.
Well, I've heard some things said that this woman said that if you were a family, or you and your wife, or your mother has a bunch of kids and is tragically killed, would you leave or would you stick around to look after your kids?
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
But again, this is just human imagination. We have no facts towards this at all. Would it be
better if he started sentences? Most people believe this, or this
if
might be. If it was
just said like, possibly another reason, but it's the whole straightforward.
I don't know. I think that sounds like your problem, not the author's problem.
No, well, what the problem is that I go to other ghost hunter paranormal group sites, and they list the same thing.
Oh.
They all feel it's a fact too.
Okay.
And the whole idea of all these people, all these scientists out here that say, we're doing paranormal research, we're trying to break the barrier and find new answers, then stop thinking in the box.
Right. Absolutely. No, I fully understand your point of view now.
Third reason is they wish to say goodbye to someone before moving on. This is most commonly the most shortest duration of spirit encounters.
Well, dude, look, if you're going to go again, make sure you come by to say goodbye to me, and I'll take over the Nocturne Society, and it'll be a little more cheery, but at least and every I can say I can prove it. There's a beyond. Chad came to see me the second time.
Well, my mother-in-law, when she was dying of cancer, said she'd come and visit, and I haven't seen her yet.
That's because it's too good over there.
And after my death, I feel that way a little bit, like it's almost. I don't know. I worry a lot about myself now because that happened to me. And I think, God, if I just died, it'd be done. And I tell myself, I'm not scared of being dead. And I just wish it would happen sometimes. And I think it's just I want it over with. It's almost like it has this grip on me constantly. And I just want it to be done. So it's kind of the lazy way out,
Yeah, but not when you look at your daughters and
right. Last reason is the spirit wishes to offer guidance to a special loved one, which would be...
Isn't that the last one you just said, like unfinished business? And I guess, wouldn't that fall under unfinished business?
Saying goodbye.
Saying goodbye. That falls under both of them.
Yeah. But that's basically the first chapter. And I was just like, I can't read this anymore. So, well, thanks for being with us, Arnie.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for listening. Believe it or not, everything I said is something I've experienced. So,
okay.
All the best to you.
All right. As I said, yeah, the book isn't. I don't know. I'm going to try to push through and give it more of a chance. I mean, like I said, it's just the first chapter, but man, reading it has just been a chore, and because it goes against my open-mindedness of what a spirit could be or is, or if they're there at all. Because there's always that question that we can't prove too. So. Anyway, we're going to tie this up. Sorry it was so late this time. And hopefully next month we can get it a little earlier and see if we can get something interesting going on. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you next month.